I still remember the sound of the courtroom doors the day I came back. It wasn't loud, just a soft, heavy creak. But to me, it felt like the entire world had turned to look. 5 years. That's how long I had been gone. 5 years since I walked away from everything. My marriage, my home, my name, and the life everyone thought they knew me for. 5 years of silence, of rebuilding, of becoming someone no one expected. And now, I was back. I paused just outside the courtroom before stepping in. My hand hovered over the handle as my heart pounded against my chest, not from fear, but from memory. This was the same place where everything had fallen apart, the same courtroom where I had once stood humiliated, dismissed, and broken. Back then, I had walked in as a wife, and I had walked out as nothing. At least, that's what they thought. "Ma'am, are you going in?" the bailiff asked, glancing at me. I nodded softly. "Yes," I said, my voice steady, a quiet proof of how much I had changed. The moment I stepped inside, the air shifted. I felt it instantly. Whispers, eyes turning, subtle nudges between strangers. No one recognized me at first, not with the way I looked now. 5 years ago, I had been quiet, modest, always trying to make myself smaller to fit into a life that was never truly mine. Now, I stood tall, confident, unapologetic. And then, he saw me. Daniel, my ex-husband. I watched confusion flicker across his face, then disbelief, and finally something close to fear. He hadn't expected me to come back. Not like this. "Is that?" someone whispered behind him. "It can't be." But it was. It was me, and I wasn't here by accident. 5 years ago, Daniel had dragged me into this very courtroom. He had accused me of being useless, of contributing nothing, of being a burden. He told the judge I had no income, no assets, no future, and worst of all, I had believed him. I remembered standing there, hands trembling, as his lawyer listed everything I wasn't. She has no independent wealth. She has no career. She has no standing. Every word had cut deeper than the last. And when it was my turn to speak, I said nothing, not because I had nothing to say, but because no one would have listened. So I signed the papers quietly, without a fight, without looking back, and I left. That was the last time anyone saw me, until today. "Court is now in session," the judge announced, pulling me back to the present. I walked forward slowly, my heels echoing against the floor, every step deliberate, every movement controlled. This time, I wasn't here to be judged. I was here to be heard. "Name?" the clerk asked. I looked straight ahead. "Emily Carter," I said. There was a pause, and then murmurs spread across the room like wildfire, because that name still mattered. Daniel's lawyer leaned toward him, whispering urgently, and I saw the color drain from his face. Good. Let him feel it, even if it was just a fraction of what I had felt back then. "Ms. Carter," the judge said, adjusting his glasses, "you've requested this hearing to reopen matters related to your previous settlement. On what grounds?" I took a slow breath. This was the moment I had waited 5 years for. "New evidence," I said calmly, "and a correction of facts that were deliberately misrepresented." Silence filled the courtroom completely. Daniel stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "She signed everything. It's done." I turned my head slowly and met his eyes for the first time in years, and I smiled, not kindly, not gently, but with certainty. "Is it?" I asked. The judge raised a hand.
"Sit down, Mr. Carter. You'll have your turn." Daniel hesitated, then sat, but I could see the tension in his jaw, the unease in his eyes. He didn't know what I was about to say, and that terrified him. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. It wasn't thick or dramatic, but it was powerful. 5 years ago, I began, I was presented as someone with no financial contribution, no ownership, and no independent standing. That was not true. A ripple of whispers spread across the room. My name may not have been on the visible documents, but I was the one who built the foundation of the business Mr. Carter claimed as solely his. Daniel let out a sharp laugh. "You? You didn't build anything." I didn't react. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't defend myself emotionally because I didn't need to. I simply opened the folder and slid the first document forward. Exhibit A. The clerk took it, the judge examined it, and then his expression changed. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "I kept copies," I replied. Daniel's confidence cracked just slightly, but I saw it. "These are original development plans," the judge said slowly. "Signed by you, dated 8 years ago." "Yes," I answered. I turned slightly, addressing the room. "I didn't just support that company, I designed its initial model. I created its first client network. I negotiated its earliest partnerships." Daniel shook his head. "No, this is fabricated." "Is it?" I asked again, pulling out more documents, emails, contracts, signatures, timelines. Each piece carefully preserved, each truth waiting patiently for this moment. "I stayed silent back then because I was told my voice didn't matter," I said softly, looking directly at him.
But I was wrong. The courtroom was no longer whispering. Now they were listening. For 5 years, I rebuilt my life. I studied, I worked, I learned what I should have known from the beginning. I stepped forward, stronger now. My silence was never weakness. It was preparation. The judge leaned back, studying me. "And what exactly are you requesting, Ms. Carter?" "A reassessment of assets," I said without hesitation, "and recognition of my rightful ownership." Daniel stood again. "No, this is insane. Sit down," the judge said firmly, and this time Daniel obeyed immediately. I could see the shift now, the realization. He wasn't in control anymore, and for the first time in a very long time, I was. The hearing continued for hours, evidence after evidence, detail after detail, every piece fitting together like a puzzle that had always been complete but never acknowledged. By the time it ended, the outcome was inevitable. The judge removed his glasses, looked between us, and spoke. "Based on the evidence presented, this court finds that Ms. Carter's contributions were substantial, foundational, and intentionally overlooked." Daniel closed his eyes. "The previous settlement is hereby reopened and revised." The gavel struck. It was done. But for me, this was never just about money. It was about truth, about reclaiming something far more valuable than assets or status, my voice. As people began to stand, whisper, and stare openly now, I turned to leave. "Emily." I stopped, slowly. I didn't turn around immediately, but I knew that voice. "Emily, wait." I finally faced him. Daniel looked smaller, not physically, but something about him had changed. "I didn't know," he said quietly. I held his gaze, calm and steady. "Yes, you did," I replied. Silence stretched between us. "You just chose not to see it." I turned again,
And this time, I didn't stop. As I walked out of the courtroom, the same doors opened, the same sound echoed, but everything felt different. 5 years ago, I had walked out broken, invisible, forgotten. Today, I walked out seen, heard, and finally free.